Hi, I'm Katie Ziskind. I own Wisdom Within Counseling and Coaching. I am a couples therapist who specializes in sex and intimacy issues. So emotional intimacy and emotional connection, as well as low sexual desire, sex addiction, infidelity issues. So if there's anything related to sex and intimacy and you are looking to rebuild a meaningful, playful connection with your spouse, I would love to help you build long-lasting love. You can work with me at wisdomwithinct.com. That's wisdomwithinct.com. So we're talking a little bit about sex addiction today. Sex addiction, is a very controversial subject. Some people say, no, you can't be addicted to sex. And other people say, yes, you can. So what happens when I work with people that have sex addiction issues is that sexual behavior of some kind is creating a challenge in their work life, romantic partnership, with real life partner sex, and it's causing stress. So sex addiction can look like a masturbation addiction, where you are masturbating to the point where your genital area is chafed, bruised, or physically uncomfortable because you're touching that area so much. Maybe you're withdrawing from social events or time with your spouse to masturbate and self-isolate. You withdraw and you pull away and you avoid sex with your real life partner because you want to masturbate. So we're getting to see that there are some challenges when we have too much masturbation. There may also be a pornography addiction underneath the sex addiction umbrella. So when you're watching pornography compulsively, you might be watching pornography where it's becoming problematic. Like you're watching it at work, you're watching it while you're driving. You have this compulsion, you have this impulse. You just cannot stop that craving. And when you watch pornography, maybe at one time you did it for 20 minutes and now you're doing it for hours and hours on end. It's becoming an addiction, and your tolerance to get that same positive feeling has really increased. So you used to be able to watch for 20 minutes and feel happier, but now you have to watch pornography for hours and hours in order to get that same high or that same feeling of happiness. So sex addiction is a real thing that can cause many problems within marriage issues and a marriage. So that's primarily my work, as I work as a relationship coach and a sex and intimacy specialist marriage counselor. So when we also have sex addiction issues, we often see deep feelings of low self-worth, insecurity, experiences of childhood trauma, and these are often behaviors that people keep a secret. When we also have a sex addiction issue, we may also have other types of addictions. So people rotate different addictions. If a person's not engaging in the sex addiction, they might be having a food addiction. Or if alongside the sex addiction, every time they engage in that sex addictive behavior, they're also drinking alcohol, and that alcoholism is very prevalent as well. There might be drug use. There might be gambling addiction. There might be a workaholism, like a work addiction. All different addictions can go hand in hand. These are numbing behaviors, meaning a person does not want to feel what they are feeling emotionally. So we need to actually learn how to feel our feelings, know that all feelings are okay, find healthy, positive, holistic coping strategies and coping outlets, and learn other coping mechanisms. So sex addiction is oftentimes a survival mechanism that a person develops in their young adolescent years, and this behavior becomes very secretive in a marriage dynamic. So a person could be married for 35 years and have kept this sex addiction secret, kind of more of a functional sex addiction issue that they have. Or in some extreme cases, we have infidelity, we have physical cheating, and if you have a sex addiction, your partner finds out, and it's this really big traumatic relational injury. A big thing with sex addiction is that it causes you mental stress. So there's this cycle of shame, guilt, and anxiety after you engage in the behavior. So you engage in watching pornographic material, or you engage in masturbation, you pull away from your spouse, or you find a sex worker, or you're physically cheating, you're gambling, you're engaging in alcoholism, and there's this feeling inside your body of shame, like you're a bad person, there's guilt that you did something wrong, it may even be self-criticism or self-hatred, and those emotions anxiety around someone finding out, having to keep the secret, maybe having to lie to cover up your tracks. How are you going to tell the lie? What are you going to say? This heightened level of anxiety and panic related to the sex addiction. And what this does is it actually perpetuates the addiction. So it makes you're kind of running from these behaviors on an emotional level, and therefore then you engage in the behavior again to try to push the feelings away. So I wanted to talk openly about sex addiction because it does impact the couple bubble. It does impact the marital dynamic. If you have a sex addiction, you are not alone and there is help. And actually, in many cases, I would even say sex addiction, yes, it is a dependency because you are getting dopamine, a mood boosting brain chemical, elevated from this addiction. But it is actually, I would say, there is a great deal of hope, maybe more so in some cases than drug addiction, because there is not that actual external substance. Yes, you might be addicted to sex with other people, or you might be addicted to the secret keeping, the suspense of lying or something like that. But, it's, I would say, physically maybe a little bit safer for you than alcoholism. So I want to give you hope and let you know that you're not alone. Another piece when it comes to sex addiction is we need to develop honesty. So we need to come clean. We need to come out. We need to tell in a couples therapy format or relationship coaching format, we need to be honest. So we need to say, hey, this is what I've been doing. This is what's going on. I wanted to be vulnerable with you. So vulnerability is a huge piece of breaking the cycle of sex addiction, whether that's masturbation addiction or pornography addiction or physically cheating or having sex with multiple people at one time in one day in a non-consensual way where you're breaking a boundary of, monogamy if you're in a monogamous relationship, or if you're in a polyamorous relationship and you're keeping a secret, right? Infidelity can happen and affairs can happen no matter your relationship structure, whether you're non-monogamous or monogamous. It's the lying and the secret keeping and that cycle of shame, guilt, and anxiety that is really problematic. So I teach you how to be emotionally vulnerable. Emotionally vulnerability is how you build intimacy with your partner. And when we have these addictive behaviors, it is a shying away from intimacy. It is an avoidance of intimacy. So yes, sex addiction may be incredibly hurtful to your partner, but we do have to deal with it together in a relationship-oriented format. So we have to talk openly together. Individual counseling is not an appropriate way to deal with sex addiction. If you are married, if you're in a couple unit, if you're in a romantic relationship, sex addiction cannot be treated in isolation. It has to be treated in couples therapy, in marriage counseling, in relationship coaching, where you and your partner are present in the same session. That is the only way that people can really recover. Yes, maybe a few individual sessions sprinkled in, but if it is individual and that person has not told their spouse, that is perpetuating the secret keeping. That's perpetuating the lying and the deceit and dishonest communication. So when we look at sex addiction, we have to look at the feelings beneath those behaviors. So if you are struggling with a sex addiction, what is the emotion that you are feeling before you reach out and engage in that secretive, deceitful behavior? Are you desiring a sense of novelty? Are you wanting to feel desired and attractive? Are you wanting to connect with your sexuality? Are you afraid that your partner won't accept your kinks or sexual fantasies? Are you feeling stressed out and overwhelmed and depressed and trying to find a way to relieve stress? What is going on emotionally? Have you just talked with your boss who's super triggering and you're trying to find a way to get through that really mental chaos? So we have to look at what that emotion is beneath the behavior and then what function that behavior is having. So I really want you to look at your sex addiction in a self-forgiving, self-compassionate, and gentle way. Now, it never helps to beat ourselves up. It never helps to shame ourselves or be guilty, but it is important to confide in your partner. And you might be saying, well, why would I confide in my partner? I'm just going to break their heart by telling them I'm addicted to porn or I'm addicted to sex or I've been cheating on them. Okay, yeah, you might, but you have to trust that your partner would like to build a deeper intimacy with you. You have to trust that your partner has the strength to be able to handle what you're going to tell them. You have to be able to say, I might disappoint them and we're going to be able to recover, right? Keeping the secret blocks intimacy. So emotional intimacy is the foundation of a great sex life. And when you have a sex addiction, you're seeking sex in a secretive way outside the relationship, you're masturbating to an extreme compulsive, impulsive manner. There are these triggers and these cravings that you're giving into in a sexual way, or watching pornography for hours on end. This is damaging your marriage, whether you realize it or not. It's not a great coping tool, and it's actually damaging your intimacy. So it's much better to be honest and say, hey, I'm struggling with these things. I need your help. I want us to figure out a way to deal with this together. This is what I'm going to do on a personal level to cope and find better holistic strategies. And I want to go to couples therapy with you. I need to be able to talk about my emotional needs, my emotional boundaries, be emotionally vulnerable. These are things I never learned growing up. I want to be able to confide in you. I want to improve our marriage, not just live on the surface and put that happy mask on and pretend everything's putting in jello and sunshine, because marriage is not putting jello and sunshine. There are going to be amazing moments, but you have to create them by being emotionally vulnerable. And by being emotionally vulnerable, you're letting your partner in. And this is what allows you to be seen, to be valued, to be appreciated. And that is what supports connection. And that is what helps to relieve those sex addictive behaviors. Because oftentimes we're just seeking connection. We're trying to connect, but we're not able to be vulnerable. So being seen is actually one of feeling seen and being seen is a really important way to help reduce these addictive behaviors, right? If you are, engaging in these addictive behaviors, it's because you don't feel comfortable being yourself, your authentic self with your partner. So couples counseling and relationship sessions can help you be your authentic self, can help you vocalize things that have been on your mind that you haven't been addressing, that needs to be addressed in order to actually support intimacy and a deep, long-lasting, strong, playful, meaningful, loving marital bond. So I hope you enjoyed this video on sex addiction. Most importantly, this is a holistic aspect of looking at yourself. So there are many pieces to this pie, and I help and guide you through the process of recovering from sex addiction and developing emotional connection, emotional vulnerability. Remember that a healthy physical sex life, if you want to improve sexual desire and improve sexual arousal, we need to be emotionally safe. We need that emotional security as a foundational piece. That's what allows for playfulness. That's what allows for exploration together and curiosity. So if you're withholding information, keeping secrets, that perpetuates dysfunction. So just remember that it's all about being completely open with your partner in order to build that incredible passion and sexual arousal and sexual desire. If you're looking for a safe space to talk about sex in a sex positive way, I would love to support you in doing so. And I run a counseling practice and coaching business. It's Wisdom Within Counseling and Coaching. My name is Katie Ziskind. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, relationship coach, and a certified sex therapy informed professional. So that means I specialize in sex and intimacy issues. So a lot of times when sexual intimacy is not really there, we have to rebuild the foundation of emotional intimacy. And for a lot of people, it's like, I don't even know what emotional intimacy is. I've never even heard that word before. So we're starting to learn how to identify feelings, communicate emotions, be there, offer reassurance, offer comfort, be able to speak up and say, hey, I need this to feel loved. Right? We don't ever learn how to do this. And then that translates to building a curious, playful, relationship oriented around sexual desire and talking about sexual needs, sexual fantasies, sexual urges, and knowing all of that is really healthy too. So you and your partner can work with me. I specialize with couples who struggle with sexual avoidance, and a sex addiction can be one of the culprits and contributing factors to sexual avoidant behaviors, because it does create that withdrawal and self-isolation. And when you're addicted to pornography and masturbation, that just becomes a very easy hit of dopamine, and working to have sex with a real life partner becomes much harder because you've conditioned yourself to only become sexually aroused through pornography or self-pleasure. And yeah, masturbation can be very healthy and a part of a wonderful life, but when it's taking up your mental capacity and limiting your abilities to be physically intimate and emotionally intimate with your partner in real life, that's when it causes marital problems. And it will lead to separation and divorce because of that disconnect in intimacy. So if you and your partner are stuck in a cycle of sexual avoidance or maybe struggling with a sexual addiction of some kind, I would love to support you. This is one of my specialties. You can work with me by heading over to wisdomwithinct.com. That's wisdomwithinct.com. I hope you guys enjoyed this video.